Hello there. Welcome into a Wednesday edition of the show. So glad to have you, whether listening on your radio, streaming the show online at extrasports1300.com, or you've downloaded the new Extra Sports 1300 app, sponsored, of course, by Diversus Health, mental health and well-being for all. A veritable cornucopia of sports topics coming your way over the course of the program, and I'd love to get your thoughts on all of them. 719-247-1313. That is both the text and the phone line for your convenience. I have three guests today, all equally outstanding. Sam Farnsworth, KSL TV in Salt Lake City, will join me here in 19 or 18 minutes. Next segment to discuss the first night in Utah Hockey Club history. That counts. Hour 2 at 4:20, Jessica Mendoza, KKTV 11 Sports, will join me to talk Broncos. And then at 5:20, Nick Gismondi will join me. He has a gig. He's covered the NHL forever. He is now a part of the DNVR Avalanche crew, and he will join me coming up at 5:20. In the meantime, why don't we talk a little Avs? Because last night was a nice little appetizer, wasn't it? Fun game between Utah and Chicago, but let's be honest, the NHL season around these parts begins tonight as the Colorado Avalanche visit the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, I was thinking about this today. Don't you miss the days where the biggest question mark with the Colorado Avalanche was just if their goalie was good enough? That used to be it. Everything else was pretty well buttoned up. It was just Darcy Kemper, Philip Grubauer, Alexander Georgiev. Are they good enough? Because everything else on this team is so good that that's it. It's not that way anymore, or at least going into this season. Avalanche general manager Chris McFarland did his eve of the season press conference. Not one question posed to him was about Cale Makar. Not one question was posed to him about the reigning MVP, Nathan MacKinnon. Everything was uncertainty. Mikko Rantanen's extension. Expectations for these rookies that are going to be making either their debut tonight in Callum Ritchie or playing in their first opening night game. Of course, the injuries to Gabriel Landeskog. When is he coming back? When is Arturi Lehkonen coming back? And then, of course, Valeri Nichushkin's continued absence from this team as he is in the player assistance program with the league. Very different. Lot more uncertainty surrounding this Avalanche team going into the year. In the season that begins tonight in Vegas is kind of split into two. BV and AV. Before Val and after Val. There are games and stuff we're going to talk about until Valeri Nichushkin gets back. And then there will be conversations after Valeri Nichushkin comes back to the Colorado Avalanche. And I know Gabriel Landeskog's reintroduction into this team anticipated, certainly. Arturi Lehkonen, Avalanche fans are very eager to get him back into the lineup. Can Jonathan Drouin have another really good season? Alexander Georgiev, all that kind of stuff. Yes, there are other things. But there is this cloud hanging over this team right now based on the absence of Valeri Nichushkin. And it's almost gotten to the point where if they have him, they can win the cup. If they don't, they can't. And it's almost getting to the point where it's that black and white. And I don't know that it's that black and white. Because you know what's crazy? Valeri Nichushkin is the Avs' fourth best player. Terrific player, but he's their fourth best player. Could you imagine if, for instance, this kind of conversation would go around Zach Hyman of the Edmonton Oilers? If Zach Hyman was gone for whatever reason, suspended, injured, would people say, oh, Oilers have no chance? Of course not. They still have Connor McDavid, don't they? They still have Leon Draisaitl last time I checked. Nobody would completely write off the Edmonton Oilers if they were missing their fourth best player. Carter Verhaeghe signed an extension with the Florida Panthers yesterday. Do you think that if he got hurt, people wouldn't think that Florida had a chance to repeat as Stanley Cup champions? But that's the way it's being discussed when it comes to Valeri Nichushkin. They still have Nathan McKinnon. They still have Cale Makar. They still have Mikko Rantanen. To say nothing of, Devon Taves, Alexander Georgiev, Casey Middlestat, their second-line center, pretty big acquisition last year. Now he's going to be on the team for a full year. All of that stuff, all of those players are almost negated by the question surrounding Valeri Nichushkin. But I actually don't think it's about Valeri Nichushkin, the player, necessarily. At least that's not how I view it. Certainly, he makes the Avalanche more formidable. And certainly, if they didn't have him, you wouldn't think as highly of them being the Avalanche. But they have enough to get 100 points without him. They're one of the three best teams in the West without him. What this is about is the distraction. That's what this is about. If he's there, they have to be able to rely on him. Right? Because that's the way it works. If you have a guy on the roster, on the team, unless some injury befalls him, you are counting on him. You are expecting him. You are making decisions on your lineup and your D pairings and all that stuff based on him being included in the team. If he's not there, say this was a season-long suspension, I think the Avalanche could deal with it. It's the middle ground that has become the issue. If he's there for a period of time and there's a little bit of waiting, unfortunately, but when this happens back-to-back years, you can't fault people. The waiting of, okay, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? Is he going to go away again? Is he going to re-enter the player assistance program? That's what has hurt the Avs the last 2 years. That's what people, including myself, have a difficult time prognosticating what the Avalanche are going to be because of how unpredictable this situation is. The unpredictability of it is what's difficult. Athletes are trained, it's ingrained in them, the next man up mentality. Right? So if a guy's gone, he's gone. and they worry about it and they compensate for it. But if a guy's there and then all of a sudden he's not when they need him the most, that sends the team into a tailspin. It certainly cost them the series against Seattle 2 years ago. I would like to give Dallas a little bit more credit and say that wouldn't have ultimately tipped the scales in the Avs' favor, but certainly there was no chance the Avs were going to beat Dallas after that. So that's the issue here. Are they going to have him? And then are they not? Unexpectedly, out of left field, without warning, and at the worst possible time. That's what the last 2 years have been. To me, the Avalanche can manage, and the Avalanche can compete for a Stanley Cup with him or without him, but it's got to be all the way one way or another. Either he's got to be out or he's got to be in. And here's Chris McFarland talking about what all-in might look like when it comes to Valeri Nichushkin in this Avalanche team.
All they want to know is that Val's healthy and that he understands the hurt that they went through, especially at playoff time. I think how they do that is something I'm certainly not going to comment on. I think that's personal in the room. But I can tell you this, there's not one single player that's not going to welcome back Val with open arms.
And you know why that is. 1%, 5%, 10%, 30%. Put it at whatever you want. Valeri Nichushkin on this hockey team makes them that much more likely to win a Stanley Cup. And that's the way the world works. Right? The more talented you are, the more rope you get, the more chances you are offered, the more you are welcomed back. If this was a third or fourth liner or a third D pairing or a backup goalie, this would not even be a conversation. It would be a news item. It would not be this. And I don't know if the arms would be as wide open. Forgive me for being perhaps a little jaded. But it's because Valeri Nichushkin, and you've seen it, he's that good. He's that good, and they're that much better with him. But even if they were without him completely, with no chance that he would come back, I think this team could deal. I think this team could compensate. To say nothing of the fact that if maybe they would have some recourse when it comes to his salary, right? At the very least, the Avs could look to add somebody else. You can't make a move for your top six for just in case Valeri Nichushkin enters the assistance program again. You can't get that caliber of a player in addition to having Valeri Nichushkin. The money doesn't work, and the Avs don't have the spot. They want to give Valeri Nichushkin that spot. If Valeri Nichushkin is back and he does the things that Chris McFarland is saying, and he stays back, the Avalanche are Edmonton's biggest threat in the Western Conference. If for whatever reason he's all the way out, I think maybe I'd slide Dallas back up into that second spot. But one thing is, if this history repeats itself again, the Avalanche are done right where they stand. If the playoffs roll around and this happens again, the Avalanche, I don't care what seed they are, I don't care how well they did this season. I don't care who they're playing. They're done. Right there. Because that's what the last 2 years have been. It's hard to expect anything else. So all out or all in. But in the interim, again, the BV part of this season, before Val, but also before Landeskog, before even Arturi Lehkonen, the Avs will play games, and McFarland says they need the points right now.
I think it's hopeful. I think we have a good group. I mean, anytime you have Nathan, McKinnon and Cale Makar and Mikko Rantanen and Devon Taves, and I can name 3 or 4 other guys, Casey Middlestad and Josh Manson and Gorgiev. Like, we feel like we've got good hockey players here. We know our challenges. We know there's injured guys, there's suspended guys currently, but I don't want us to wait for the cavalry. I want us to be ready to go day one with the guys we have.
And that will be tonight at 8 o'clock against the Vegas Golden Knights. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the beginning of this Avs season or the beginning of this NHL season. Plenty more hockey talk to come over the course of the next 3 hours. It'll be a fairly even split between hockey and football over the course of the next 3 hours. More hockey coming up next. Sam Farnsworth will join me from the state of Utah, who now has an NHL team. Just what was it like to be in the building to witness a bit of NHL history? efforting Sam Farnsworth, KSL TV in Salt Lake. He did make me fully aware that he was traveling to a PGA golf tournament that he is covering, so he didn't know how his service would be. So hopefully he gives me a call back. Send him a quick text berating him for abandoning us. But I watched that game last night between Utah and Chicago, and looked pretty big in that. Looked like a fun time there at the Delta Center. Oh, Sam wants me to call him. How do I swing this? He has to call me now. I'm talking. In the meantime, text talking about Valeri Nichushkin and kind of this cloud that hangs over the Colorado Avalanche right now. Actually, hold on that, because we are now joined by Sam Farnsworth of KSL TV. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, Ryan?
Not a whole lot, but a whole lot is going on in your world. Appreciate you joining me today.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. I'll tell you what, there is a whole lot going on out here. And I'm going to sound a little biased here, but Utah is a hot sports just beginning.
Oh, see, you cut out there when you were about to disparage Colorado. There, you said they're going to be a great sport, and then you cut out, Sam. So we never got the end of that. So we'll never know. Oh, now. Oh,
and it's just,
there you are.
You got me?
Kind of. Push through. Can Ryan Smith get better cell towers out there in Utah?
That's a great question. See, this is where I am cruising through the what do you want to call it? It is no man's land of Utah between the metro area and St. George, Utah in the south, where this weekend they are having. This is what I was telling you, Ryan, is that Utah is one of the hot sports markets, and it's just beginning. And this weekend's another example of it. I know we want to talk hockey here in a minute, but this weekend we've got the PGA Tour back in Utah, and I know Colorado enjoyed that this season as well. But Utah's got the PGA Tour coming back for the first time in 60 years. We're at Black Desert Resort near St. George, Utah, and that's where I'm actually headed. So I pulled off the road for a bit. I think I've got some self-stability for you now.
Well, I appreciate you doing that. Hopefully I don't put you behind in your schedule for the day. I mean, this show's not that important. I certainly appreciate you treating it as such, but how was it last night?
That was excuse me, that was amazing, man. So it was interesting to see, okay, how is Utah going to embrace the NHL? Is it going to work? Obviously a lot of fans in Arizona are disappointed to have lost their franchise and their team. But we got a sneak peek of it back in April when, after it was announced that the NHL was coming to Utah, Ryan Smith did this big welcome party at Delta Center, and the place was packed to capacity, and they still had another like 5,000 to 6,000 people outside the arena just to welcome this team as they came into the arena, introduced themselves. The place was so loud. So it kind of gave us an idea of, okay, is this what it's going to be like when they finally drop the puck? Well, last night, the arena is not perfect. Okay, there's still renovations. There's a 2-year plan to get it to a more of an NHL caliber arena where you'll have unobstructed seating, but there's still obstructed seating in areas of that arena. 11,000 unobstructed seats were full, plus another 5,000 obstructed view seats. The place was packed with 16,000 crazy fans who are just so sports hungry for another professional sports franchise in Utah. They're just so happy to cheer for this hockey team. And it was a blast for Utah to be able to experience what Colorado's experienced for years with the Avalanche, the whole pregame hype, the light shows that they broadcast onto the ice, things like that they're able to finally experience here in Utah. I think it's just something that whoever was there last night, they'll never forget.
And I know that you guys have been trying to get an MLB team, and certainly from a calendar perspective, that makes a ton of sense. And you have Real Salt Lake, who is very well supported out there. So I guess there's no season that you can drop in another professional team in Salt Lake City and say, well, they're not going to go up against anything else. I guess because of the arena size at the current moment in time, there certainly feels like there's enough to go around where the Jazz are still, I guess in the season tickets would be where that kind of shows, right? How is the interest level, season ticket, all that kind of stuff for the hockey team as opposed to the Jazz, because we know what the Jazz are. They're an NBA institution.
Yeah. And the Jazz, they've sold out consecutively for several years now. So, and that's not going anywhere, even though they're going through this rebuild. There's still that fan base that wants to support them and be there. From the hockey standpoint, there was close to 40,000 deposits on season tickets before the puck ever dropped. And so there's a desire and a hunger and an interest in what the NHL can bring to Utah. And according to Ryan Smith, it's something like 90% of the season ticket deposits came from people who do not purchase Jazz season tickets. So he's saying that this is a totally different fan base that the NHL is tapping into, that's been here in Utah, but they haven't been able to, express their interest in the sport that they love. So it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out over time, right? Because you're in the honeymoon phase. Last night was the party, was the wedding night, or whatever you want to call it. It was an absolute party, and it'll last throughout the year. It'll be exciting throughout the year. How will it translate into next season? And as they continue through the latter end of this rebuild that they're going through, the Utah GM, Bill Armstrong, said that 4 years ago when he took over the job in Arizona, that this was the worst franchise in the NHL. And he says that now they're starting to exit this rebuild stage, and they're getting ready to compete for playoff spots.
Sam Farnsworth joins me, KSL TV in Salt Lake City, talking about Utah Hockey Club's big debut last night. And it was a fun game, too. They had to hold on to beat Connor Bedard in the Chicago Blackhawks. You brought up the rebuild and just the state of affairs with this franchise. You have, obviously, you are in a building with Sports Talk Radio. You hear from fans. You were at the arena last night. Is there any expectation from the fan base, or is it just, we're so happy hockey's here, we don't care if they win 5 games or 50 games?
Yeah, it's more the latter right now. It's more just, we're thrilled to have a team here. We're thrilled to cheer for a team. And when they score goals, it's going to make it more fun, right? And like last night, you score 4.5 minutes into the game, and they get excited. And I guess maybe the problem is, if you raise the expectation level too high too soon, maybe they'll be disappointed somewhere down the road. But
right.
I think there's a realistic expectation as to where this team was, and knowing that it's a brand new team. Usually with brand new franchises, you're starting from ground level, and it's going to be a few years before you're even relevant. The good thing about this team is that even though the NHL is kind of considering them a brand new franchise, they really aren't, right? This is a team that's been building for years now in Arizona. And the message that they were quick to relay to us is that, look, we're still building, but we're ready to act now. And they've got an owner now who's ready to invest. And so, and we saw some of that investment on the ice last night in Dylan Gunther. Gunny's a guy who last year played about 41 games. He only played about half the season. He started in the AHL. He scored about 19 goals last year, and they love his goal scoring ability, right? The opportunity to create his own shot. Last night, he was the guy who scored that 4.5 minutes in. He was calling for the puck. It looked like a cowboy shooting from the hip, just that little flip from from the wrist, he's standing almost straight up, and he just threw wristed that thing right into the back of the net for their first goal. And he had 2 goals in the game. And it's like, okay, there's the future. They just invested in him this offseason to a 9-year contract. This is a guy that's probably going to be the face of the franchise moving forward, or in the not too distant future. And so there's a lot to be excited about. The expectation level will start to rise over time, but I think everyone's realistic that, if they don't make the playoffs, who cares? We're just happy to have it. But they are expected to be a playoff team within a year or two.
Sam Farnsworth, my guest. Does Ryan Smith just kind of walk around the streets of downtown Salt Lake with the backwards hat and everything? Is he, I mean, I know he's going to be visible, right? Because it's his big night, but he just, and it's also, I'm seeing stuff about the concession prices, and I'm seeing stuff about how many games are going to be on free television. And this is not just a hockey, this is basketball as well. But he just, and I know he's got the net worth of his peers, certainly, right? Or else he wouldn't have these teams. But there's an everyman feel about him, even though that he is super successful and super rich.
Yeah, 100%. And, we were just having this conversation, with one of my colleagues just a few minutes ago about how Ryan Smith he's kind of the up and coming young owner in sports that might be an innovator, right? Some of these things that you mentioned that he's done with, free television, putting them on free television, what he's doing with concessions, the way like he's been throwing these party type atmospheres for, the welcoming party last night, the game day party outside, they had a free concert with Shabuzi outside on the plaza to get the fans there. They did a big like blue carpet walkway for the players to walk into the arena. All these things that he's kind of thrown out there. And then his vision for not just sports, but sports in Utah and just this state of Utah. Ryan Smith is one of the biggest salesmen of the state of Utah. He's adamant that the jerseys say Utah on them. Even when they come up with the name, he wants there to be Utah on the jersey still. And yeah, I mean, he just kind of walks around like, you know what? This is my world. I'm going to create it what I want it to be, and let's go. And I don't think sports fans in Utah are arguing much because they love what he's doing and his vision that he has.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just knowing you and, visiting the city and everything, I'm really happy for you guys because it's really cool. And obviously that franchise, I've thought highly of where that organization was going, even under the conditions they were in Arizona. And I just feel like it might pop with that young talent. Bill Armstrong, you mentioned, he got a great head coach. I think it's ready to pop in Utah, and trade deadline time. I don't think Ryan Smith is going to be shy about writing the check for Utah to bring somebody in, but it looked like a whole lot of fun, Sam. And I appreciate you joining me to discuss some of this. I got to say that I'm a little bit upset. You know how much of a proponent I am of your city, of your new hockey team, of the fact that they should remain Utah Hockey Club. And yet not a single piece of paraphernalia has made its way across this Colorado-Utah border. And I'm kind of wondering what's that about?
Well, not a single piece has made it across the street from the arena to my office yet either. So once we get to that point, I can start working on getting some over the border into Colorado for sure. Here's one thing, Ryan. I really hope that the Avalanche Utah hockey rivalry becomes a thing. I think it will. I really hope that's the rivalry that kind of becomes a thing in hockey. It's unfortunate that the Avs and Red Wings thing just, once the Wings went to the Eastern Conference, it just wasn't the same like it was in the 90s, early 2000s, right? So I don't know who the Avs fans say their primary rival is these days, but I hope it eventually becomes Utah. I think that would be an awesome rivalry.
Well, maybe the start to that will be on the 24th when the Avalanche head out to Salt Lake City to take on Utah Hockey Club. For now, they're unbeaten, and Dylan Gunther is going to win the Hart Trophy. So it's all good right now in Salt Lake City. Sam Farnsworth, appreciate the time, buddy. I'll let you get back on the road. Appreciate the time.
Thanks a lot, Ryan. Anytime.
Yep. See you, buddy. That's Sam Farnsworth, KSL TV in Salt Lake. I will say this when it comes to the rivalry, and Sam, for those who don't know, as every year goes by, fewer and fewer people know that Sam Farnsworth was an anchor at KKTV. So he experienced the Avs, right? Lived here in Colorado Springs, covered the Avs frequently. So he's seen it. He's seen what the Avalanche mean to the city of Denver and to the state. And I think he was one of the people in Salt Lake City that was telling everybody, you're going to love this. And as far as the rivalry thing goes, if you're an Avs fan, you know this. Who's been their biggest pain over the past couple of years? It's been the Coyotes, right? Every time they seem to play the Coyotes, and they played them in ASU's arena, and it's just like they were just such a thorn in the side. Not that the Coyotes were on the, nor will Utah Hockey Club be on the level of the Avs. We're talking about two different classes of NHL franchise right now. But it's like, I remember almost every game that the Avs have played the Coyotes over the last couple of years, because it's one of those games where you dismiss because the Avs are so much better, and yet they lose. It goes down to the wire. Maybe. I don't think it's crazy to think that geography helps bolster that in terms of a rivalry. Now, Utah's got to do their part, right? Hanging tough with the Avs in a game that the Avs care about far less than the Coyotes do, or now Utah does, is one thing. Utah's got to make the Avs care. That's the way this works. By being at their level, and they're not. And they're not going to be this year. I think Utah makes the playoffs. I think they sneak in there. But they're not on the Avs level. So you could see it setting up, though, right? Avs get maybe the top seed, although we'll talk about Edmonton coming up next. I mean, they might just go nuclear on the entire NHL and go 81-1. But play a few times, a little hype up between Salt Lake City and Denver, some intrigue around Utah. Maybe they meet up for a playoff series. Could be. I know rivalries, there'll never be anything like Detroit and Colorado, right? And if you're chasing that, then you're never going to catch it. But in today's NHL, in today's landscape of professional sports, the closest thing that the Avs could have to a rival in the coming years could be Utah. But I'm excited for that city. It's a great city, and it was really cool to see it last night. And we were talking about the concessions. Hot dogs are like $2 there. Like, seriously. It's like old Sky Sox pricing when it comes to the concessions. I like what they're doing. But ways to go to get to the Avs level, that's for sure. 719-247-1313. Coming up next on Drive Time Sports, Aaron Rodgers speaks on the firing of Robert Saleh. Did he have anything to do with it? It all comes down to this. Your Colorado Springs Switchbacks take on San Antonio FC with everything on the line for home field advantage in the playoffs this Saturday at Widener Field. It will be fan appreciation night. That's you. So wear your Switchbacks colors and be there at 5 to get an exclusive fan panel from Creative Consortium. Then after the match, experience a special season finale fireworks show. It all goes down this Saturday, October the 12th, 5 p.m. at Widener Field. Limited tickets are still available, but act fast. SwitchbacksFC.com. Aaron Rodgers made his weekly appearance on the Pat McAfee show. A lot of people, including yours truly, believing that Rodgers was behind the firing of Robert Saleh one way or another. But Aaron Rodgers said, quote, as far as any of the ridiculous allegations out there, I'm not going to spend more than one sentence in response to it. And that is that I resent any of those accusations because they're patently false. It is interesting the amount of power that people think I have, which I don't. I love Robert. I did not see his face when he was, because I don't watch that show, but I saw the quotes. It has Rafael Palmeiro denying steroid use vibes to it. Patently false. And what was the other word that he used? Ridiculous allegations. Thought there was another one in there, but anyway. I don't believe him. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't. I don't believe, at the very least, a star like Aaron Rodgers, who does have the sway that Aaron Rodgers denies that he has. He absolutely has it because it's what he was craving when he was going on all these Sports Center type shows a few years ago and talking about basically how he's sticking it to the man and looking out for players and everything like that. He wanted to take the power back. And now he is in a situation where he has the power. So don't act like you don't have the power. If Woody Johnson decides that he's going to fire someone, I understand that Aaron Rodgers, may be overruled. Okay, because Aaron Rodgers has more power than Nat Hackett, than Robert Saleh, than Joe Douglas. He doesn't have more power than Woody Johnson. I understand that. But if Aaron Rodgers were to catch wind of Robert Saleh being fired, and he loved Robert Saleh that much, he could at least sway Woody Johnson. I don't know that Aaron Rodgers wanted Robert Saleh fired. I think the most likely explanation of this is that Woody Johnson wanted heads to roll after the game in London, and he went out looking for a scapegoat. I think he trained his eyes on either he focused on Hackett and Rodgers interceded, or he knew that firing Nathaniel Hackett would cause an issue with Aaron Rodgers, so he went to Robert Saleh. There are only two athletes at the tail end of their career that have this kind of influence over an organization. It's Aaron Rodgers and it's LeBron James. And I've said about LeBron James when it comes to JJ Redick, when it comes to Bronny, the best part about the influence that LeBron has over the Laker organization is he doesn't have to tell them to do anything. And LeBron can sit there and say, I never told the Lakers to draft Bronny. I never told the Lakers to hire JJ Redick. He's probably telling the truth. But when you have real power within an organization, people act on your behalf without even asking you because they know what you want. Right? And that could be the case here. Aaron Rodgers may actually be telling kind of the truth to Pat McAfee. But if Woody Johnson wanted to fire somebody, and I do believe it was Woody Johnson's idea to do something in response to the loss to the Vikings coming after the loss to the Broncos. But Woody Johnson says, I'm going to fire somebody. So he looks at who he can fire. He had to have looked at Nathaniel Hackett first. And either Rodgers isn't telling the whole truth, and he did tell Woody Johnson not to. And remember, Woody Johnson said that he and Aaron Rodgers spoke. But, not about that. Okay. So either Woody Johnson asked him about Hackett and Rodgers said no, and Woody Johnson said, okay, then it's going to be Robert Saleh, or he just knew Aaron Rodgers well enough to know that that would cause a problem if he fired Nathaniel Hackett, so he fired Robert Saleh. Either way, it's still a show of what Aaron Rodgers has over this team in terms of influence. And it's the same as LeBron and the Lakers. You don't have to tell him to hire JJ Redick. They do it for him. He doesn't have to tell them to draft Bronny. They're going to want to do it anyway because they know it will please LeBron James. And that's the number one thing that the Lakers are in the business of. They want to take care of LeBron James and do whatever they can to keep him happy. And there's something similar going on with the New York Jets. It's not a sign of a well-functioning organization by any stretch. And I don't expect the Jets firing somebody that has very little to do with what the real issues are with this team is going to have the impact that Woody Johnson hopes it would. But there is a sliver of truth that is possible with what Aaron Rodgers and Woody Johnson are saying. I don't think they're telling the whole truth on this, but I think they have, what's that phrase, culpable deniability? I think Aaron Rodgers has a little bit of that, knowing full well that his boy, Nathaniel Hackett, will not be touched. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the Jets firing Robert Saleh. Do want to get in a word here for my friends at Circa Sports Colorado. If you haven't downloaded their app, you should. And you'll notice with Circa Sports Colorado, they don't do a lot of the, get $100 here, $50 here, whatever. Those promos that get people in the door with some of these sports betting apps. And the reason why they don't is because they believe their lines are their promos. And if you're somebody who is not just looking to take advantage of this fun promo and you're looking to find an app that you can go to time and time again for your sports betting, they think they've built the app for you. They keep as little money as possible on large market bets. They strive to be a minus 110 split. And they do not limit players based on their winnings. And they feel so strongly that they have built a really good app for serious sports bettors that they invite you to shop around. Don't just out of pocket delete the other app. Compare, contrast, see what they have to offer. They think you'll like it. They did that with me, and I'm like, yeah, I like it. And now that's the sports betting app I use. Download the Circa Sports Colorado app today. Must be 21 years or older and present in Colorado to bet. Gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Bo Nix spent his off day making a fun little Instagram video. You'll hear about it next from Bo Nix himself on Extra Sports 1300. Welcome in Drive Time Sports on this Wednesday. Avs drop the puck on their season tonight in Vegas. Of course, Sunday, the Broncos welcome in another division rival in the Los Angeles Chargers. Jessica Mendoza of KKTV 11 Sports will be by in 17 minutes to discuss that matchup and everything related to the Denver Broncos, where today the biggest story is an Instagram video. Boy, are we living in the year 2024 or what? The dust up on the sideline between Sean Payton and Bo Nix continues to have life, as Bo Nix, or I would suspect, and I was saying this to somebody today, do we really think that Bo Nix was sitting on his MacBook Pro splicing up highlights from the game, clips from Ferris Bueller, and press conference clips from Sean Payton? I don't think he was. But somebody did on his behalf. And the final product that was released on Bo Nix's Instagram account, it's kind of funny. I still don't feel like Ferris Bueller was the greatest comparison, but it's now taken on a life of its own. And Bo Nix had the video on Instagram. If you would like to check it out, it really needs to be consumed with your eyeballs rather than your ears. But I have the next best thing, and that's Bo Nix talking about it. And here is the Broncos quarterback just a little bit ago.
And it was a good opportunity to just kind of use the game Sunday and just have some fun with it.
How much is the team lightened up, and how much are they kind of calling you Ferris as coach gets called you that today and all that?
Yeah, he did joking. And so just being consistent, I think, is the main thing, and continue not to turn the ball over and put your team in a good spot.
There he is, Ferris Bueller himself, Bo Nix, just a little bit ago up in Denver. Just bringing smile and laughter. That's all he's trying to do with his video. Sean Payton did like it. I don't know that he liked it like in the social media sense, but he said in his comments today that he did enjoy the video that was posted on Bo Nix's Instagram. Yeah, I think it seems like such a silly thing. The whole Ferris Bueller thing, the Instagram video, all that kind of stuff. But you couple it, and look, part of this is it's the year 2024. And what is done on social media matters. Right? Whether you unfollow people, whether you remove people, remove a team, scrub your account, whether you post something, like it matters, and it's an extension, if I could speak, of your brand and who you are. And you only hear from Bo Nix once a week, and twice a week. You'll hear from him after the game, but you hear from him during the week in this kind of setting. But it's perpetuating, I don't want to say star, that Bo Nix is certainly locally. I'll say that. I don't think Bo Nix has reached star status nationally. But here locally, the performance he had against the Raiders, the dust up with Sean Payton, the way the two of them handled that, it's endeared. That's what I'm looking for. It's endeared Bo Nix even more to the Broncos fan base. It's, you know what I compare it to? When Drew Lock was vibing to the I Put On For My City, that song, when he was on the bench, like jamming to it, that went viral and people loved it. Right? This is kind of the same thing. But at the heart of it is a really good performance and that interaction with Sean Payton on the sideline, which is making people go, okay, Bo Nix is competitive. Bo Nix will go at Sean Payton. Maybe there's not that Bo Nix is Sean Payton's equal intellectually, because Sean Payton has probably forgotten more football than Bo Nix has learned. But just in that moment, there was Bo Nix standing up for what he saw and was making his case, and competitively, it's just, especially compared to Russell Wilson last year. I mean, that has to be part of it. And so Bo Nix he's endearing himself even more to Broncos fans. His stock is rising locally. However you want to put it, all of this silliness about the Ferris Bueller stuff, it's just perpetuating the popularity of Bo Nix as the Broncos quarterback. Couple of other items I picked out from there. One, we are now reminded how seasoned, and that's the word I will use, seasoned, Bo Nix is, that he and Justin Herbert played against each other. And then, of course, Bo Nix succeeded him at Oregon. So that's a fun little storyline. But it also reminds us that Bo Nix is not a young rookie by any stretch of the imagination. But this is a chance, and I'm curious whether he'll get that chance. You look through the quarterbacks that the Broncos have played, Geno Smith, Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers could have been this, but it was really crummy conditions and you didn't really get to see it. Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell and Baker. Right? If you take out Aaron Rodgers because of the conditions in that game, this is the first time that Bo Nix in his career will go toe-to-toe with an elite quarterback. And I don't think the weather's going to hamper that one like it did when he went up against Aaron Rodgers. And it matters, right? If the theme of the week, other than Ferris Bueller, is the feeling around this Broncos team starting to change and the fun being back, and maybe the postseason isn't so crazy. I still think we're premature. I said this yesterday for those who missed it. Got to win the next 3. You win the next 3, after the Monday after that Carolina game, I'll be talking about the Broncos being a playoff team. But not until then. But part of this is Bo Nix being able to perform at a level close to, if not equal, to Herbert and Mahomes. I mean, it is. Obviously, there's an expectation that even on Sunday, he's not going to match Justin Herbert throw for throw. And to ask anybody to match Patrick Mahomes throw for throw is asking way too much. So I'm not saying that Bo Nix will ever be the best quarterback in the AFC West as long as Mahomes is there, or even the second best quarterback in the AFC West as long as Herbert is there. But this is an opportunity for Bo Nix to show, like, I can hang with my counterpart. Yes, the matchup is not Herbert versus Nix, but the way we talk about the NFL, it is Herbert versus Nix. He was asked a question about going up against Justin Herbert. And this is a level of quarterback that Bo Nix and the Broncos haven't gone against. And there's a bigger story there with this defense and how good they're playing if they can keep it up against Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh's offense. But in order for the Broncos to be taken seriously in the AFC West, I think Bo Nix has got to perform at a level that's only a notch below Justin Herbert and Mahomes at some point. The question is, will that be Sunday? And I wonder if Sean Payton's going to allow him to do that. Because that was my big takeaway from Sunday, that it was time to let Bo Nix throw the ball downfield with some consequence, with the game hanging in the balance, when you're not on script. All of these very controlled, low leverage situations that we've seen Bo Nix throw the ball in, that's fine and good on him for performing in it. Now we need the rest of the game. Bo Nix, quarters 1 through 4, has got to make plays down the field. And I wonder if this is the week where Sean Payton's going to allow him to do that. With a banged-up offensive line, Palczewski did not practice today. They're already down McGlinchey. And you heard Bo Nix talk about how the Chargers love to keep everything in front of them. Are there going to be the opportunities? And when there are, is Bo Nix going to be able to take advantage? Take your thoughts. 719-247-1313. Speaking of bringing smile and laughter, coming up next, Jessica Mendoza, KTV 11 Sports, will be my guest to discuss the fun being back with the Denver Broncos. Thanks, Georgie. Welcome back to the show. Joining me now to discuss the Denver Broncos this past Sunday and this future Sunday, Jessica Mendoza, KKTV 11 Sports. Jessica, how are you?
I'm doing great. Glad it's Wednesday, Ryan.
Is Wednesday a significant day in your week?
It's a busy day here, you know. We
It
got
is.
Avs tonight. We got Broncos up in Denver. We got Switchbacks tonight. There's a lot going on, but we love that.
Don't I know? Will you be staying up late this evening to listen to the Switchbacks broadcast on Extra Sports 1300? Yes? Okay, cool. That's awesome. Thanks for the support.
Of course.
It's all right. I don't know how many people are going to be listening to Rolling tonight, but we will be broadcasting the game right here on Extra Sports 1300. Let's talk about the Broncos. First Sunday. You have been covering this team for a while now. You have been up routinely at Empower Field. How would Sunday as an atmosphere compare to other Sundays that you have been at Empower Field?
Sunday felt like something that I can't remember that I've experienced since covering the Broncos for the past 3 years. I mean, with the rivalry game paired with the throwback theme, and then of course just beating the Raiders for the first time since 2019. It was an incredible atmosphere. It was so much fun. We got to spend a lot of time in the locker room talking to the guys afterwards, and you could just tell how much fun they were having. You know, they had just finished their little powwow in the locker room, and where, you know, the music was blaring, and, you know, we missed all of that, but just getting to see their reaction to their third straight win, the fans were going crazy. It was just an atmosphere that, like I said, I haven't experienced over the past 3 seasons. So a lot of fun to be there and witness in person.
Bigger deal. Ending the long, albeit longer, losing streak to the Kansas City Chiefs, or ending the losing streak to the Raiders?
Well, we were talking about that on Sunday. I felt like it was a bigger deal to break that streak against the Chiefs just because it had been so long, so much longer. But at the same time, this win felt better because of where we're at in the season. Like I said, third straight win, first home win of the season. And I felt like overall, like the Broncos were playing more complimentary football. Like there was some things that we were still a little bit unhappy about with that Chiefs win. Although a win is a win, you know, it was one of those ones where you wish you had a couple things back or it would have played out a little bit differently. But I felt like there wasn't a lot to be unhappy about with that win against the Raiders on Sunday. Like I said, complimentary football. The Broncos were just doing a lot of things right. So, you know, when you're on a winning streak like that, I think it just feels a little bit better in that way.
Jessica Mendoza, my guest, you got a great look. Did you just spot Bo Nix coming over the sideline and getting into it there with Sean Payton? Because you got a great look at it on your social media.
Yeah, it was great. So we're the only Colorado Springs station that gets to be on the field and physically shoot that game. So Corey was down on the sideline for us getting highlights, and he sent me a text and he said, Bo Nix and Sean Payton are kind of getting into it. So I glanced down at the sideline and I see it playing out, and it just happened to be kind of the end of what the Fox broadcast didn't show. So it was right after what everyone saw on TV. I was able to get with my majorly zoomed in iPhone footage, but like you mentioned, it was really great footage to see because yeah, they were both very passionate in their conversation. And one of my favorite parts about it was seeing Courtland Sutton's involvement in that little tiff on the sideline. He was just staying in that conversation with those two. It kind of seemed like a mediator in some way. You know, he'd go over and pat Sean Payton on the back. It looked like he was maybe telling him to calm down. And then when Sean Payton finally walked away, as Bo Nix was sitting on the bench, he sat there with Bo Nix and continued to talk to him, you know, gave him a pat on the back and then let him have his moment. So just good to see, you know, Courtland Sutton stepping up as a leader, you know, being there for the rookie quarterback. And yeah, the response on Twitter was great. Just people being like, this makes me love Courtland Sutton even more now.
And that it's interesting that it's a good angle to take because obviously we were all focused on Nix and Peyton. And you're right, like the television broadcast, we saw Peyton and Nix. We did not see Cortland Sutton's involvement in that as well. Did you? I mean, it's hard not to think back to last year when Sean Payton was berating Russell Wilson, right? I mean, were you thinking about that where you wanted? Did you think, were you like, oh no, the Broncos are falling apart if not for Cortland Sutton? Or did you look at it like, no, this might be actually a good thing that Bo Nix and Sean Payton are getting into it?
Yeah, that's so funny because, again, like the response that I've seen from Broncos country goes on two opposite sides of the spectrum. It was oh, there's trouble in Denver. Something's brewing between these two. And then the other side was fans being like, this is the best thing I've seen from the Broncos in years. Like, we needed this. And I think, if I remember correctly, I feel like when Sean Payton was, getting in Russell Wilson's face, he walked away like a sad puppy dog, whereas Bo Nix is like showing that fire, like, he has that belief, that he wants to show what he can do. And so I'm more on the side of, this is a good thing. We like to see the fire from Bo Nix. We like to see the passion. And that's exactly what Sean Payton said on Monday. He was like, I love how he responded. Obviously the Broncos go out and score some touchdowns after that. But just even the joking that we're seeing now on social media with Bo Nix posting that video from Ferris Bueller and all of that stuff. So I think overall, like at this point, you can't really say there's trouble in Denver. It's all fun and games, and I think that they have a good relationship. And like you perfectly mentioned on my show Monday night, Ryan, that's a good, healthy relationship that I think, the quarterback can push the coach and the coach can push the quarterback, and you need to be able to see that at the end of the day.
Jessica Mendoza, my guest, KKTV 11 Sports. It's a little bit much now with the Ferris Bueller thing, right? Like Sean Payton and Bo Nix both gave their sides of the video. Sean Payton, his reaction. Bo Nix said he wanted to bring smile and laughter. But we can be done now, right? Like we don't need to be dragging this Ferris Bueller thing into Thursday and Friday, do we?
I don't think so. I know it got brought up again today because it turns out Sean Payton kind of told on Bo Nix today. He said he actually hadn't seen the movie, so he had to go look it up. And then I think once he watched the movie, he was able to be like, oh, haha, yes, that's me. And I think that was kind of some talks in the locker room as well, of just like, yeah, he hadn't seen the movie, but he said that he had. So yeah, I think we're good to leave it in the past. We'll see if it gets brought up again before Sunday.
His tonight at 10 on KKTV. Is Bo Nix a liar? And does that mean he is not the future franchise quarterback of the Denver Broncos?
Trouble in Denver.
Yes, exactly. Jessica Mendoza, my guest. I was thinking about this listening to Bo Nix speak, and I know you heard him speak as well. Because of the washout that was in New York, or New Jersey, more accurately, this is going to be, weather permitting, the first time that Bo Nix goes up against an elite quarterback. And I'm curious whether Sean Payton is going to let Bo Nix battle it out with Justin Herbert, or it's going to be more of the very controlled Bo Nix.
Well, look, these are two really good defenses at the end of the day that we're going to see on Sunday. When you look at the Chargers, they're also top 5 in a lot of defensive categories. They're first and only allowing 12.5 points per game. And they also have like a very balanced offense, and that's something they talked about today. So I'm not sure, after what we saw on the sideline, as much as you want to leave that in the past, if that's like changed anything, how much Sean Payton will give Bo Nix more of an opportunity to air the ball out. But, we talked about Javonte Williams and just how well he's played the past 2 weeks. So if that's working, I don't see the Broncos straying far away from that. Mm-hmm. But I do think it would be a lot of fun to see what they might draw up for Bo Nix against Justin Herbert. I think it's going to be a really tricky day for Justin Herbert. He's already banged up, and he's going to face a lot of pressure. You look at Jonathan Cooper, Zach Allen, and Nick Bonito. They got 10 sacks between the three of them. So if I were Justin Herbert, I would be trying to suck up to my offensive line as much as possible this week.
Yeah, and that's a fair point, right? And if we were based in LA right now, I think it wouldn't be, will Jim Harbaugh let Justin Herbert, match Bo Nix throw for throw? It's a different conversation, but you're right about the two defenses. As much as we would love to see what Bo Nix can do in comparison to what Justin Herbert can do, there's kind of a chance that neither one of them do much of anything on Sunday because of these two defenses.
Yeah, and then we're talking about the running backs. J.K. Dobbins has been such a huge piece of the Chargers, 342 rushing yards. So, I think we could see a big running game on Sunday. I really don't know. One thing that really stood out to me, what Sean Payton said today about Jim Harbaugh, he was asked about, were you aware that he was kind of going for the same job as you when you were, interviewing in Denver? And he kind of said, no, like I wasn't really paying attention to it. I was focused on the other teams I was interviewing with, but I loved this. He said he's glad he got a job in our league. He's just not so happy it was in our division. So it's going to be great to see these two go up against each other this Sunday.
I've been conducting a very scientific poll today around the office. And so I'll ask you this question, include you in this scientific poll. How long does this winning streak last? How many games do the Broncos win in a row before it ends?
That's a good one. That is a good one. I don't see why they wouldn't be able to win through Thursday night in New Orleans. I think it could be a little bit of a toss-up game just with the emotions running so high. We could see Sean Payton trying to do things out of the norm just because of the game that it is to him. But I don't see why they couldn't win through at least the next 2 weeks. I definitely see them winning this Sunday. I was talking to you last week, and I was like, they're either going to lose to the Chargers or they're going to lose to the Raiders. We know how they've been. They were 3-3 in the division last season. They got to drop some of these somewhere around here. But last week's victory just continues to grow my confidence in this team. So at least through the next 2 weeks, I don't see why they wouldn't be on a 5-game winning streak, which is pretty wild to say. But that being said, that was another thing talked about at practice today. They know how delicate these winning streaks are and the success that they're having can be. You think about some of the success they had last year, a little bit of a winning streak. I think it was 5 games last year. Then they went 1-3. That basically dropped them out of the playoffs. So they know how delicate it is. And I loved what Jonathan Cooper told us in the locker room on Sunday. He said, nobody's flying high right now. We're getting back to work. Even as defense, we want to keep improving. So that's always good to hear, but you just got to see it out on the field on Sundays and I guess Thursday nights as well.
Well, and then what's coming after the Saints game is Carolina. So,
right. Yeah,
so now you're, but I do, and that's why I asked. One, it's to gauge people that I talk to in terms of how much they're buying in on this team. But it really is a fascinating stretch of games because you get a divisional opponent at home, but the Chargers are coming off of a bye week. Then you have a short week to play a Saints team that is now going to start Spencer Rattler. That news came out today that Spencer Rattler is going to be their quarterback without Derek Carr in there. And then you turn around, have a longer week to play one of the biggest dumpster fires in the league. And then after that, it's at Baltimore, at Kansas City, which most people that I've talked to think that are kind of in line with you. And then they probably add in the Panthers and say some point Baltimore, Kansas City, it comes to an end. But it's a really interesting stretch of games coming up here for the Denver Broncos. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, you're right. I completely skipped over the Panthers. I was going straight from Saints to Ravens.
So is the rest of the league, Jessica. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I guess I hope the Broncos won't look over them too much. But, yeah, I definitely think looking at those three, wow, that's crazy to think it could be a 6-game winning streak there. But like you mentioned, Ravens-Chiefs, the 2 weeks after, that was always the stretch of the season that we all looked at like, man, they better get rolling before that because those are going to be some tough games down the stretch.
Will be interesting to see. Let's take the same mentality as Jonathan Cooper and company and put our sole focus on the Chargers for the rest of the week. And I'm sure that's what you guys are going to be cooking up for 5:30 and 10 tonight.
Yeah, as much as possible. Like I mentioned, there's so much going on. Went and talked to the Colorado College hockey team, who is ranked number 12th in the nation right now. I talked to them this morning, so we'll have a little bit from them tonight as well.
Yeah, they open their season this weekend. Avs tonight, and most importantly, not because of any bias I have, Switchbacks looking to clinch his playoff spot tonight. I don't know how you're going to get all of it in at 5:30 and 10, but I'm fascinated to see you try, Jessica Mendoza. It is a fun time of year, and I appreciate you joining me.
Thank you so much, Ryan. We'll see you next week.
Yep, sounds good. Jessica Mendoza, KKTV 11 Sports. Catch her at 5:30 and 10 this evening. Boy, the sports calendar got really busy all of a sudden. I'll pose that question to you. 719-247-1313. Broncos winning streak is at 3. Chargers, Saints, Panthers, Ravens, Chiefs. When will the Broncos lose again? Take your thoughts. And I'll give away some Switchbacks tickets for Saturday as well, coming up next. This Saturday night, the Colorado Springs Switchbacks close out the home portion of the regular season, hosting rival San Antonio FC. Hopefully, a playoff spot will be clinched tonight. So Saturday will be about celebrating you, the fans, for another great season of Switchback soccer, although they will continue on 2 road games after that, and then the postseason where they should at least get one home match. Getting ahead of myself. Saturday, fan appreciation night at Widener Field, 5 p.m. I want you there. You've been listening to the broadcast. You've been going to the games. You've been winning tickets from me all season long, and I would like to do it one more time. I have a 4-pack of tickets to check out Saturday night's game between the Switchbacks and San Antonio FC. If you would like to go, text Switchbacks and your name to 719-247-1313, and the 13th texter to do that will win those tickets. So the question that I posed to Jessica Mendoza moments ago, and I have been asking many people around the office here today, when will the Broncos lose next? Their winning streak is at 3. How long is this going to go? And I've had some people push through the Baltimore game. I was talking to someone today that said he thinks they'll win the next 4 games and then lose to Kansas City and Arrowhead. Because I am who I am, I have had people say, oh, it'll be the next 2 or 3, then they'll lose to Baltimore, and then they'll beat Kansas City by 50. So I've gotten some different answers, but I think, you just heard it from Jessica, I think there is a real belief here that this thing is going to run to 6 games. Because now, and I think it's based on New Orleans. I think people were looking at that New Orleans game. Not that it was unwinnable by any stretch of the imagination, but short week. Remember Peyton Manning's return to Indianapolis. Those don't always go well. And the way that the Saints have been playing early on in the season. So I think there was a lot of, well, I don't know that they can make that turn, beat LA, and then turn around a few days later and beat New Orleans. But now Spencer Rattler is being reported that he's going to be, it's not going to be Jake Haener even this week. It will be Spencer Rattler until Derek Carr is healthy. So you're going to get another rookie quarterback going against the Broncos defense in Sean Payton's return to New Orleans. So I think Derek Carr being out and Spencer Rattler being in maybe has changed the perspective. And I think it does to an extent, because now it's like, well, I got to see Spencer Rattler. I saw a lot of them at South Carolina and at Oklahoma. I think he was picked where he deserved to be picked. He wasn't in the conversation with Daniels or May or Caleb. He wasn't, to me, even in the conversation with Bo Nix, who I had a few notches below that top group of May, Williams, and Daniels. Still a really tough turnaround. And you're going on the road. And even for someone like Sean Payton, a lot of emotions. I don't think we get there, actually. I honestly think that the game that is the most troublesome over these next three is Sunday. Yes, the Chargers are banged up. They're coming off of a bye. They have a very good defense. They have a good running game, as Jessica pointed out. They unequivocally have the better quarterback in the matchup. And at least the coaching matchup is a draw. I think this Sunday is more dangerous. Obviously, because the Chargers are better, right? And I laid out all the reasons why. They're better than New Orleans. They're better than Carolina. Forget Carolina. They're going to beat Carolina. We don't have to worry about that. But this is the best of the three they will go up against. The rest advantage goes to the Chargers. And I hear what Jessica is saying that Jonathan Cooper and the Broncos are talking about. You know what this game kind of feels to me like? When the Broncos went into Tampa, but the roles being reversed. That's what Sunday's game feels like to me. A team right now that is riding high, that is starting to feel themselves a little bit, and this team coming in. Now, certainly you give more respect to the Chargers than I think you give the Broncos going into the game against Tampa. But I think this is a dangerous game for the Denver Broncos. You don't have the historic losing streak like you did with the Raiders and like last year with the Chiefs. You have had your success against the Chargers. They are not unbeatable for a lot of these Broncos players. They've beaten the Chargers before. I know they didn't have Herbert, but still, they picked up 2 wins against that team last year. A lot of the same personnel. I think this is a tricky spot for the Denver Broncos. And I think that the Chargers are very good. I think the losing streak, or the winning losing streak, we were just talking about a losing streak ending on Sunday. I think the winning streak ends here. I think the Chargers come into Denver and win. That's where I'm at. Take your thoughts. 719-247-1313. And I would actually like the Broncos' chances better going into the New Orleans game to beat New Orleans if they lost to the Chargers. Because have you seen how the Bucs have responded? Like, their defense doesn't seem like it's recovered, but they bounce back after that. But if you ask me when the winning streak comes to an end, I think it's Sunday. Still tricky game in New Orleans, and then perhaps a get-right game against Carolina before you face arguably your most difficult 2-game swing of the season, going to Baltimore and to Kansas City. That's kind of how I see it. Well, take your thoughts on when you think the Broncos' winning streak will come to an end. 719-247, 1313. Steve G comes in, pushing back a little bit against my assertion that Justin Herbert is an elite quarterback. Says, I find the elite placed on Herbert a little overstated. No major victories and team yearly results. Not that great. I think even if you throw out last year, and you should throw out last year, given the fact that he got hurt, I think you have a point. But there's no denying that he's an elite talent. And that's what I'm talking about. From a talent perspective, Justin Herbert is elite. But I think what you're saying, Steve, is a fair point. You hear the word elite and you're like, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson. He hasn't accomplished enough to be grouped with those guys. But in terms of his talent, he is an elite quarterback. Still, outside, well, and even Rodgers, some of the bloom has come off of that rose, hasn't it? So I don't even know what you would characterize Aaron Rodgers as. This will be not only. I think you could say overall, this is the best team the Broncos have played to this point. I think it's the best quarterback they've played. I don't think it's the best defense. I look back to the Pittsburgh game. Jets. So it's not that. Coach. Harbaugh could be the best coach that they've gone up against. So the Chargers are not only a test for this elite Broncos defense, but it's a team in a matchup with another quarterback that I'm curious what Bo Nix looks like, juxtaposed to what Justin Herbert does on Sunday. That's the way to put it. It's not Herbert versus Nix, but you put their performances, you compare them. 719-247-1313. Want to tell you about QC Kinetics because this is really great news if you're someone that's dealing with arthritic joint pain, because you can now use your own body's healing properties to revitalize those achy joints and get real lasting pain relief. It's advanced regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics. If you're tired of arthritic pain in your knees, hips, back, or shoulder, this is something you need to check out. The thing about it, you don't use drugs, you don't have surgery, and you don't have downtime associated with QC Kinetics treatments. They have tens of thousands of satisfied patients across the country, many of them right here in Southern Colorado. If you've been dealing with achy joints because of arthritis, at least it's worth a free consultation, no? It is a free consultation with QC Kinetics. 719-347-1988. Take action to get lasting joint pain relief with help from QC Kinetics. 719-347-1988. 719-347-1988. Hello there. Welcome in. Drive Time Sports with me. I'm Ryan. Nice to talk to you. And it'll be nice to talk to my buddy Nick Gismondi coming up in the next segment. He's covering the Avs this season for DNVR. He has been entrenched with the Avs during their preseason preparation, so no one better to ask about what to expect tonight and beyond with the Avs than Gizmo. And that's coming up in 19 minutes. Take your thoughts on things. 719-247-1313. All of a sudden, a debate over the eliteness of Justin Herbert has broken out. DJ Michaels, very famous, sometimes producer of this show in Switchbacks broadcast, hit me up and said, I think that Justin Herbert is an elite prospect, not elite talent. He hasn't consistently shown anything. I have to push back against that. Has he been somewhat culpable in chargering? Has he dabbled in chargering over the course of his career? Yes. But rare is the occasion where I watch a Chargers game and I'm not impressed with the talent that Justin Herbert possesses. Is he now that are we off Brock Purdy, or are we still having a debate about him? Are we moving the debate to Justin Herbert? Is Justin Herbert elite? Oh, you know what? This is the Flacco thing. That's what this is. Justin Herbert is the modern day Joe Flacco, which coincidentally is existing at the same time as Joe Flacco, who now is elite. How can you possibly say that Joe Flacco's not elite after watching what he did with the Browns last year and what he's doing with the Colts now? I think that the Colts are more difficult to beat now that they're being quarterbacked by Joe Flacco, because with Anthony Richardson, you have the youth, you have the inexperience, you have the mistakes. Is Joe Flacco going to do for the Colts exactly what he did for the Browns last year? And the great irony of all time is that Joe Flacco has produced for like 30 NFL teams, and the one he has not is the Denver Broncos. I mean, think about that. Ravens, obviously, Jets, Browns, Colts. Okay, so it's not 30. Everywhere he has been, he has played well, except Denver. But you remember Joe Flacco when he was in Denver, he was the one chastising the Broncos' unwillingness to take chances. Right? I got to find that clip from Joe Flacco. I will. I'll find it. Remind me. DJ can remind me. He's sometimes producer. Remind me to pull up the Flacco clip where he's chastising the Denver Broncos in their play calling. So Justin Herbert is now Joe Flacco. That's what we've decided. We don't agree whether he's elite or not, but we can all agree that he is the new Joe Flacco conversation. 719-247-1313. That is not one of the three stories that are driving the show. Here are all three of those. All right. First, Let's go to hockey for story number one.
I think it's hopeful. I think we have a good group. I mean, anytime you have Nathan, McKinnon and Cale Makar and Mikko Rantanen and Devon Taves, and I can name 3 or 4 other guys, Casey Middlestad and, Josh Manson and Gorgiev. Like, we feel like we've got good hockey players here. We know our challenges. We know, there's injured guys, there's suspended guys currently, but I don't want us to wait for the cavalry. I want us to be ready to go day one with the guys we have.
Day one is today. Avalanche open the season in Vegas against the Golden Knights. No Valeri Nichushkin, no Gabriel Landeskog, no Arturi Lehkonen, and that's Chris McFarland saying there shouldn't be a problem. And there shouldn't be with the list of players he just went through. And with the cloud of Valeri Nichushkin's situation hanging over this team, it's gotten to the point where I think people have drawn the line that if Valeri Nichushkin is there, they can win the Stanley Cup, and if he's not, they can't. And I don't know that it's that black and white. The problem with what's happened with Valeri Nichushkin is the timing of it, is depending on him only to lose him abruptly. I think that the Avs would actually be fine without Valeri Nichushkin. Now, would I take them to win the Stanley Cup? I'm not picking them to win the Stanley Cup with or without him. But the point is, if Valeri Nichushkin was not an Avalanche player anymore, I still think you have to recognize the Avalanche as one of the top 3 teams in the West. Edmonton, Dallas, Colorado. Maybe in that order without him. But 7-game series, I think the difference would be negligible between a Dallas and a Colorado. And I think that Colorado could beat Edmonton. Just a matter of who you would actually side with. With him, I still think Edmonton is the team to beat, but I'd probably put them over Dallas. So they'd be better with him. We know that. But without him, I still think this is one of the NHL's elite teams. The issue is that they depend on him. And he's gone for a reason that's not injury. That's where the next man up mentality comes in. And Aaron had a great text earlier. I'll get into a little bit of it later because it's really well thought out. The next man up mentality is with injuries, is with a little bit of time to absorb what is going on. If history repeats itself again and Valeri Nichushkin comes back in November or December and he plays and this team looks like a wagon and he enters the player assistance program down the stretch of the year or into the playoffs, the Avs are done right then and there. But to say that Valeri Nichushkin makes all the difference in the world, I don't totally agree with that because of how many other Valeri Nichushkin is the Avs' 4th best player. Would we have this kind of conversation that the fate of this team rests on the shoulders of their 4th best player for any other team in the NHL? No. But it's the distraction, it's the abruptness, it's the depending on him and then him not being there. To me, this is all in or all out, and it looks like it's going to be all in. But before then, Chris McFarland wants the Avs to pick up some points, and their first chance is tonight against Vegas at 8 o'clock. Here's story number 2.
Yeah, he did jokingly, and the guys liked the video, and they gave me a hard time about it. But I think it's just kind of part of the game that you can have some fun with, and it's just kind of brings smiles and laughter.
Bo Nix auditioning for the part of Santa Claus this Christmas, bringing smiles and laughter to Broncos country. This in reaction to the video that he posted on his Instagram that I know he did not do himself and would be a little troubling if he did, because he should be studying the LA Chargers, where he took it's a video, and you may have seen it by now, maybe not, but it's the comments from Sean Payne about Ferris Bueller, and then it's a clip from Ferris Bueller, and then it's highlights of the Broncos beating the Raiders, and then it's another clip of Ferris Bueller. So Bo Nix is laughing at himself. Sean Payton got a good chuckle out of it. It's kind of taken on a life of its own, but it has perpetuated the popularity of Bo Nix. He, starting with that, think about that moment, right? Should have hit the 45-yard touchdown pass. It was dropped. Goes over the sideline, gets into it with Sean Payton. The comments from Sean Payton afterwards. Bo Nix saying he told me he loved me, and I told him I loved him back. Now the video. Like, think about this sequence of events and how much the legend of Bo Nix has grown with all of this. Now, I'm done with the Ferris Bueller stuff. I don't want to hear another Ferris Bueller reference after today, because I still don't think it was a great comparison Sean Payton made. But it's endearing himself to everybody, to the fans, to his teammates. Like, it goes back to the preseason and getting named the captain and the team feeling comfortable with him being the starter, just at every opportunity for Bo Nix to do something, to be more liked, to be more respected, to be more. He does it. He's savvy in that way. And the play on the field against the Raiders wasn't too shabby either. That might help a little bit as well. But Bo Nix, bringing smile and laughter. Do some of that by beating the Chargers. I think that would go much further than any Ferris Bueller video you post on your social media account. Story number 3 today is Aaron Rodgers on the Pat McAfee show saying he had nothing to do with Robert Saleh getting fired. And in typical Aaron Rodgers fashion, he got upset with us. He resents the idea that he had a hand in it. That's typical Aaron Rodgers. Turn it around. It's not him. It's you and it's me. We're making stuff up. Fake news. That's what Aaron Rodgers is claiming here. And maybe there's a sliver of truth in here. Maybe Aaron Rodgers didn't go to Woody Johnson and say, you need to fire Robert Saleh. And maybe he didn't say anything about firing any coach. But Woody Johnson clearly wanted somebody to pay for what has happened to the Jets the last 2 weeks. And because of the power that Aaron Rodgers denies that he has, but absolutely does have in the Jets organization, at the very least, Woody Johnson would not seriously consider firing Nathaniel Hackett because he knows how Aaron Rodgers would receive that. And it's similar to the Lakers hiring J.J. Redick and drafting Bronny. The best power that you can wield in an organization is that people will do things without consulting you because they already know. Right? LeBron doesn't have to ask the Lakers to hire J.J. Redick and Bronny. The Lakers will just do it to placate him. Same thing here. Everyone agrees that Nathaniel Hackett is a bigger problem with the New York Jets than Robert Saleh. The offense stinks. The defense is really good. But Woody Johnson would dare not look in that direction because he knows that he will face the wrath of Aaron Rodgers, or at least Aaron Rodgers would throw a bit of a fit. And so maybe he didn't say, I want Robert Saleh fired, but there's a lot of other ways in which Woody Johnson could act almost on behalf of Aaron Rodgers, even if he didn't straight out ask him if he should fire Robert Saleh. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the three stories that are driving the show. And our spur of the moment discussion is Justin Herbert elite. But coming up next, we talk hockey. Nick Gismondi, DNVR, what to expect tonight from the Avs and moving forward, at least until a certain couple of players make their return. Welcome back, Drive Time Sports. Last night was fun and all. I'll take hockey any way I can get it, but the NHL season really begins tonight as the Colorado Avalanche take on the Vegas Golden Knights. And if you haven't noticed, there's a lot going on with this franchise. And joining me now to discuss is a man that has forgotten more hockey than I know, but I'm trying to catch up to them. He's been covering the NHL for a very long time, and he's one of the best at it. NHL Network, the Chicago Blackhawks, you name it. And now he is gracing us with his knowledge as a member of the DNVR crew. He is Nick Gismondi. Gizmo, what's up, buddy?
What an intro. Thanks a million, Koff. I don't know if I can live up to all that.
You can and you will, sir, but it is great to hear your voice.
Buddy, it's great to hear yours too. I missed you. I had so much fun calling Air Force games with you the last few years, but it's nice to be just up the road, so I won't be a stranger, my friend, and I'm always happy to hang out and chat hockey with you.
Well, I'm glad to hear because it was my full intention to make this a regular thing, you and I chatting about the Colorado Avalanche, but let's start here. You've been around a lot of NHL teams. You know a lot about the Colorado Avalanche. You've been entrenched with this team as they prepare for the upcoming season. How would you describe the air around this Avs team right now?
Listen, I think obviously there's holes in the roster, right? I mean, there are, and it's been talked about ad nauseum for quite some time right now, obviously with the injury to Gabriel Landeskog, and then of course, the situation with Valenchuskin, it makes it tricky. You have a lot of guys who are massive contributors to your lineup that helped you win that Stanley Cup a few years ago out, and then with Lehkonen, it's the same situation. You don't necessarily have a solid timeline on him.
Mm-hmm.
And what they've done is they've added some pieces over the course of the summer. They've got some young guys. Things are not as bleak as I think the outside world maybe looks at it and thinks. I feel like that this team has a good core. You've got Nathan McKinnon, the reigning Hart Trophy, had 140 points last season, still in the lineup. You've got Rantanen. You've got a top four on defense that is probably the best in the league. So I don't think you're at a total, oh my gosh, doom and gloom, dismal. I think they're going to need to grind it out for the first 10, 12 games of the season. And right about that time, they'll probably get Lehkonen back, and that will bolster the lineup a little bit. And then, listen, the rest of the team is going to be called upon to be gritty and to do some things and to try to pull the weight a little bit until they figure out what the situation is exactly with Gabriel Landeskog and when he can come back and how good he will be when he does. And then the other question is out of the control of the Avalanche is the Nichushkin situation. That's a league suspension. The Avs have really no say in it other than they need to wait for the league to reinstate him. And, that means he's got to do all the right things. We talked to C-Mac, the GM here, a day or so ago, and he said that things seem to be on track, but won't know the answer on Nichushkin until right around the middle of November.
Is the ceiling still for this team winning the whole thing this year?
Yes. I mean, this is a Stanley Cup or bust organization. I think they're not going to be fighting for a playoff spot, so I don't think that's a concern. I think the biggest question mark maybe that lingers for the Colorado Avalanche is, do they have the horses in between the pipes to win another cup if they don't have, say, everybody back that they want back? And that's a question. I do think that this organization will make moves and do what they need to do to bolster their lineup if that does become the factor. And I think that's something that you'll start to look at a little bit closer to the trade deadline. But this is a team that a lot of people have as a favorite to, contend for the Stanley Cup. And I think full-heartedly that they will do so. And I think everybody's just going to have to kind of, not hit the panic button or pull the ejection handle too early on in the season.
Nick Gismondi, my guest. He's doing work for DNVR's Avalanche arm and will be all over tonight's game between the Avs and Golden Knights. What have you seen from these younger guys? We'll get Kovalenko. We saw Malinsky, obviously, last year. Richie, obviously a highly touted guy. Of these young guys, two of them who are going to be flanking Casey Middlestat tonight, it appears. What have you seen from them? What have you heard about them? And what kind of expectations do you have?
Yeah, so really love the play of Malinsky. We'll start there on the defensive side. He stood out during camp, really, really earned his spot, kind of forced the trade or the, the move with Brandstrom. And Malinsky kind of sort of owned that spot. He also clicked real well with Calvin DeHaan, who's a longtime buddy of mine. Was very excited to see him here. And DeHaan brings a little bit something to this defensive core. He's good at pressure without being overly physical, and he's a veteran guy, right? He's been around the professional hockey ranks for around 12 years. So him with Malinsky is a real fun pairing on that third pairing. And I also think on the penalty kill, we'll see a lot there. He's kind of the stay at home a little bit, be a little bit pressure without physicality. And then Malinsky's the one who's going to kind of play that very offensive defensive style that Coach Bednar likes so much. So fun to see what Malinsky does. Kobe, awesome. First full NHL season in North America. Obviously, I'm looking forward to seeing how he kind of sort of settles in and adapts. I love the Ivan story. He gets his NHL debut. Was really good with the Eagles last year. I think he had 31 points, if I'm correct, in about 67 games. He'll be down around that fourth line and he'll get some time and kind of get some reps in. So fun for him. And then I like Cal Ritchie a lot. And I think the thing about Cal Ritchie is that he's adaptable, right? He's a center by nature. He's never really played the wing. They got him on that second line wing spot. It's just going to take a little bit of the pressure off of him, right? He doesn't have all the responsibilities of a center in the NHL. And it's his first game tonight. Mom and dad are going to be there, family, friends. And then on top of that, it's a ruckus building to kick off your NHL career in, So trial by fire for Cal Ritchie, but we'll see. I think, the timing works out real nicely because, they've got 9 games before they potentially have to return him to juniors. He can't go to the AHL, right? So if he performs well, and he gets off to a hot start, well then, Cal Ritchie might stick around. If it's, so, then he goes back to Oshawa and he plays in the OHL for a year where he'll absolutely dominate. But excited to see how he does on that second line, and being with Midzi is a good position for him to be in.
Which player, until in Chris McFarland's words, the cavalry comes in when it comes to Lehkonen, Landeskog, Nichushkin, who are you for tonight, for the first week, first month, whatever it is, who's the Av that you've kind of got your sights on that you're very curious to see what he looks like out of the gate?
Well, I mean, obviously a lot of the pressure is 100% on that top line, right? The Druin, Mack, and Rance. That's where your pressure's at. I'm very interested to see how Casey does on that second line. I hope that Ritchie steps up. I think that 20s line on that third line is also going to be relied upon to really kind of step up a little bit. Wood, Colton, and LOC are going to need to do a little bit of something. And then again, the other guy that impressed me out of camp a little bit was Parker Kelly. He's going to center that fourth line, number 17. So we'll see how he does too. I think they'll be called upon to contribute a little bit of offense, but the brunt of the weight will rely on, that first line. And then I think the veterans there on the third will need to make sure they're picking up some slack for what will be, a very puppy-like second line.
Nick Gismondi, my guest. You could see him up at the DNVR Sports Bar tonight, I understand. And they're going to have
we got a little watch party going.
Yeah, a little watch party, and that will not be a one-time thing. So if you can't make it up tonight, know that you will have many other opportunities. The bar is open all the time, so just head on in there, but not every night is Gizmo there. Let me ask you about the the West in general,
Mhm.
are we being a little too eager to just say Edmonton go fourth and right the wrong of last year? How much, static are they going to get? How much can the West prevent Edmonton from getting back to the Stanley Cup, which it sure seems like a lot of people would just as soon have Edmonton go back?
Nah, man, Edmonton's a wheel.
Yeah.
I mean, you not only have a hungry, really want it Connor McDavid, now you have a hungry, really want it, pissed off Connor McDavid. And, based on all the stuff that's come out with the TV show and seeing his emotions in the locker room, I don't really want Connor McDavid that motivated.
You know what he reminds me of, Gizmo, is after the Vegas series a couple years ago, Nathan McKinnon, I've been in the league going on 9 years and I haven't won what. Like, that's what it reminded me of. And we know what happened with McKinnon after that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure we're going to see beast mode from Connor McDavid for the entirety of the year.
Mm-hmm.
You think he was good before, wait till you see him angry and, one game away from the Stanley Cup. And then just to add insult to injury, they give him the Conn Smythe and he can't even go take it. So, got a feeling he's going to be coming in pretty hot this year and everybody else is just going to be playing catch up.
Hopefully when the playoffs roll around, the Avs will be full strength and give Edmonton a run. It would be nice to see those two teams match up again after the Avs denied them a few years ago to go to the Stanley Cup final.
Be a ton of fun, to be quite honest. I'd love to see that. I think that's probably your best pairing. I wouldn't sleep necessarily on Vegas. We'll see. They've got some weird things happening. I mean, Marcia Show being gone and heading to Nashville is, I think, going to break that locker room up quite a bit. You don't have Wild Bill and Carlson on the lineup right now. He's on IR. Stevenson, who was there for 5 years, he's gone. He goes to Seattle. I mean, 8 rostered players from last year aren't in the lineup anymore. So the Golden Misfits of 2017 are pretty much done. So it'll be interesting to see what Vegas rosters and how they end up playing. And then, my sleeper, I don't know. I had bigger feelings about this before Drew Doughty went down with an injury, but I wouldn't sleep on the LA Kings. Anze Kopitar's got just a few years left on in his career, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he really truthfully would love to win one more for his kids. So.
Love it. Nick Gismondi, catch him on the socials. He is at Nick Gismondi and catch his work all season long with DNVR. Gizmo, great to catch up, buddy. I hope we do it again very, very soon and enjoy the game tonight.
Hey, buddy, we can do this as often as you want. I always love talking to you. So you want to make it on the regular, we'll do it on the regular, brother.
Consider it done, my friend. Enjoy yourself tonight.
All right. Thanks, Coff. You stay out of trouble down there,
Impossible. But you do the same up in Denver.
You got it, buddy.
See you, buddy.
No promises.
Later. That's Nick Gismondi. Great dude. One of my favorite people. Great to work with him last year on the Air Force hockey broadcasts, and just what an addition to the DNVR outfit they got there. Just big get, and love Gizmo to death, and he'll do a great job. And we will make it a regular thing with him coming on and talking about the Avs and Golden Knights this evening, 8 o'clock. Coming up next, I do have the Joe Flacco audio, stroll down memory lane. You can get a good laugh out of it now that the Broncos are doing well. Also, tonight, when it comes to the baseball, are we going to see the guy that we have waited so long to perform in the playoffs perform with his team season on the line? Updating you on some of the playoff baseball that's going on. My Tigers have bounced back in a big way. First, Skubal shuts them down, and today, 6 different Tiger pitchers combined for a shutout of the Guardians, and the Tigers are 1 win away from going to the ALCS. The Tigers. You get why I say that this is one of the closest things I've seen to Rocktober since Rocktober. This Tigers team had like a 0.2% chance of going to the playoffs like a month ago. To go to the playoffs. And now they're a win away from the ALCS, where they will either play the Yankees or the Royals. That series also tied up at 1 game apiece, and that is 0-0 right now in the top of the third. Mets getting ready to close out the Phils. Phillies are going to have to pull a Mets here. Rally late. They're down 4-1 after 6. But the nightcap is what I'm most focused on. First of all, this show, by ways of the app and online, reached San Diego. But if you are from San Diego, if you are listening from San Diego, if you know anybody in San Diego, well done. That atmosphere last night, I mean, that was insane. I can't even imagine what it would have been like to be at Petco. And that's a ballpark I've been to. But what a night for the Padres. And I thought we were in for like a 15-14 slugfest. And then Teoscar Hernandez hits the grand slam, and then nobody does anything after that. We have waited so long for Shohei Ohtani to be on this stage. And I wonder if we get the full fury and power of baseball's best player tonight. Because by Ohtani standards, he has not had a great series. The Padres got that lefty reliever that is just giving him fits. But not only have we waited for Shohei Ohtani to be on this stage, he's waited this long. This is why he chose to move up the freeway or down the freeway or across the freeway, was to be in moments like this. And I know he hit that long one last night that I saw a stat. It would have been a home run in all but like 4 ballparks. Well, the fact of the matter is he's playing in one of the 4 where it wouldn't have been a home run. Certainly, Ohtani is not the Dodgers' biggest issue. Mookie Betts just now got off of an 0 for 20-something schneid. But much of the anticipation for this baseball season, for these playoffs, for this series, is to see Ohtani. And I don't think he has. And look, it's one of the quirks of this postseason format. Like these teams with a bye, they've never won in the current format. No team with a bye has ever won a series in the current format. But it's like baseball's this 162 game slog, and then you can't even get settled into a series, and then you're done. It's a very unforgiving, chaotic setup that Major League Baseball has going. And many people are relishing it because the Dodgers, the new evil empire, are on the verge of elimination. I got to imagine Ohtani has something tonight. I'd be shocked if Ohtani doesn't have a big say at the plate on the Dodgers' fate, because there's just been too much built up, too much anticipation, too long of a wait for him more than anybody else to be done in 4. That's it. That's Ohtani's debut. 4 games. See you later. Give the Padres their due. Certainly. Right? And they may be able to navigate their way around Shohei Ohtani. But I just have a feeling that if anyone on the Dodgers tonight puts in an effort commensurate with the moment of facing elimination, it's going to be Ohtani. Interested to see how that one plays out tonight. Then, of course, you have Avs, Golden Knights, 8 o'clock tonight. Here on Extra Sports 1300, it will be the Switchbacks as they are in Orange County. Speaking of Southern California, they will be taking on Orange County SC, and the situation tonight is as follows. Switchbacks win, playoffs. Switchbacks tie, playoffs. Switchbacks lose, I believe either Tulsa or San Antonio has to lose. But they'll need help to clinch a playoff spot. Now, they play Saturday, they play Monterey Bay, and they play Sacramento before the season comes to an end. I don't think the Switchbacks' playoff chances are in peril. But it would sure be nice. Tough road trip, midweek, missing a handful of guys that are on international duty. The lineup is going to look very different this evening for them to get the result that they need in order to put the playoffs. Okay, that's done. With these draws, it's funny, and Roland and I will get more into it on the broadcast tonight, but the Switchbacks have remained unbeaten, right? These last 2 weeks. They haven't lost in a very long time, and yet it feels like their chances of getting multiple home playoff matches is slipping through their fingers because of Sacramento. So from that standpoint, Switchbacks need all 3 points. Be an interesting one tonight. Hopefully you'll join us, but there's a lot going on. I understand that, but we'd love to have you. 7:30 pregame, 8 o'clock. Switchbacks and Orange County SC. All right. I mentioned this earlier. A little stroll down memory lane for you. This is Joe Flacco in the one stop in his NFL career where he could not make it work. The one time that Joe Flacco. And that's eons ago. How many quarterbacks have played since Joe Flacco? 20? That feels like a lifetime ago. And here's Joe Flacco. on a different team doing the same crap he did with the Cleveland Browns. I mean, there's a lot from Broncos years gone by that shows the ineptitude of the organization and just how bad of a place they're in. I can't think of a better way to illustrate that than the fact that Joe Flacco has been what he's been everywhere else. And even at an advanced age, what was the thing the other day? Anthony Richardson's mom is like 2 days older than him, and he's still doing it. And to make it work in Denver, though. Not many people could have, to be fair. Which is why it's Sean Payton and Bo Nix now. From the 719, I never thought about Flacco and Herbert that way, that maybe Justin Herbert is the new Joe Flacco in terms of us constantly questioning whether he's elite. The texter goes on to say, while the Colts are better with Flacco, the underlying issue is he's not going to win you a chip. Therefore, Colts are better served to be worse in the short term in order to develop AR to win a ring down the road. And I would agree. I agree with that. I don't think this Colts team is as talented as the Browns team he led into the postseason last year, and that was not a serious Super Bowl contender. So Anthony Richardson certainly, and this is why they drafted him, right? He's the guy that raises your ceiling. So they're better. And I guess the lens I'm looking at it through is I've done a lot of pondering when it comes to the Broncos schedule and in how differently I feel about the Broncos and how differently I feel about the opponents remaining on their schedule. And I think with Joe Flacco continuing to play this way, if that's who the Broncos face, I think that's a more difficult game. But you're spot on. The bigger plans for the Indianapolis Colts obviously involve Anthony Richardson. And while I'm sure Indy is somewhat enjoying the Joe Flacco experience, I got to imagine there are people in Indy that are like, this is cool, but if we're not going to win the Super Bowl, then maybe we should not get a bad draft pick too. But it's remarkable what Joe Flacco is doing. But it's the modern day Joe Flacco for the Broncos on Sunday. That is Justin Herbert. And if you are looking to perhaps put your money where your mouth is in terms of your belief one way or another, may I suggest the Circus Sports Colorado app. It is my sports betting app of choice. And the reason is because they make it better for the better, like you and me. Their lines are their promos. They strive to be a minus 110 split. They keep as little money as possible on large market bets like futures and golf tournaments. And they do not limit players based on their winning. And they are so confident that you won't find a better experience, that they encourage you. Compare, contrast, shop around. That's what they asked me to do. And now the only sports betting app I have on my phone is the Circus Sports Colorado app. Download the app today. Must be 21 years or older and present in Colorado to bet. If you have a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. My thanks to Sam Farnsworth, to Jessica Mendoza, to Nick Gismondi, and to you, most importantly, for your patronage on this Wednesday. Hopefully, I'll talk to you tonight around 8 o'clock for Switchbacks in Orange County. A programming note, I am not in tomorrow, but I will be back on Friday. So if I don't talk to you tonight, I will talk to you Friday.